Good morning, everybody. My name is John Kipp. I'm the fire chief in Des Moines and the chair of the executive committee of the commission. Glad to see people this morning. Good turnout this morning. A far bigger turnout yesterday. So a lot of people from all across the county showing up, and we really appreciate that. I just want to plant a couple of seeds before I hand it back to AJ. And one is I want you to think about while during this next hour, is this of value to you and to the community that you're from and represent? People, has everyone here met everyone that's on the back of this page and now has their email and phone number and that kind of thing? And two quick scenarios that I think about when I think about explaining emergency management to those who aren't necessarily familiar. And the first would be events that occur that are completely contained within your jurisdiction that displace people. Apartment fire, broken water main, building that is unhealthy to be in. Emergency management is a great conduit to not only help you do the things that you need to do, but connect the people that you represent to the services that they need. The second scenario is more along the lines of the disaster or potential disaster. And that would be, for example, if the tornado a couple of years ago that started in Norwalk had tracked, say, 2 to 3 miles to the north, a third to a half of our jurisdictions would have lost not only their ability to pick up the Monday morning trash, but to do any kind of debris management. They probably would have lost a considerable number of their fire and EMS resources and potentially their law enforcement resources. So in that scenario, when you've lost your resources, what is the best way to come together so that in 12 hours or so, we can explain to everyone in the county across 3 TV stations one message about how we're going to help with debris management and how we're going to connect people to what they need? That's a pretty heavy lift. And you need to have a well-oiled machine that's capable of doing that and walking everyone through it with all of the stresses that come along with that scenario. So those couple of things. What's the value? Have you met the people? What are some scenarios that I could apply what I'm going to hear the next hour to my jurisdiction and my neighboring jurisdiction? I'll leave it with that. Maybe I'll say a couple of comments at the end. Thanks, AJ.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you all for being here this morning. Just looking around the room, I've had the pleasure of working with many of you over several years. So I know you have the experience and the wisdom to share with your colleagues. Some of you are probably brand new to this, and we welcome you. You'll kind of get a very condensed version of a lot of stuff this morning. And so there really isn't an opportunity for a lot of depth, but we invite you back at any time. Thank you, sir. To explore that depth so that we do that before those disasters happen, before that crisis is upon us, is to build those relationships. And that's why we call this our annual partnership meeting, because really the strength of emergency management is right here in this network of people that are all willing to do great work on behalf of our residents, constituents, friends, and neighbors. So that comes, in different forms every single day, all the services that you all provide on a daily basis, and how that all comes together when we have a larger scale, more complex disaster, or even a planned event. And we'll talk about those throughout the morning. Chief Kipp, thank you for your leadership and your comments this morning. Also want to recognize the balance of the executive committee for the Emergency Management Commission. You see the names on the board. Sheriff Schneider was here at yesterday afternoon's session. He serves as our vice chair. Chief Jim Clark from Johnston Grimes is here with us this morning. Chief Scott was here yesterday afternoon. He's the police chief in West Des Moines, and also Jared Ogborn, the fire chief in Altoona. Really blessed to work under their guidance and leadership as the executive committee. Sometimes on a daily basis. Most of the time we're touching base on a weekly basis, and we have an executive committee meeting once a month, with the exception of a couple months. But most of the time there's a scheduled meeting once a month that we get an opportunity to sit down with them and understand their guidance for the agency. And I just have a tremendous amount of respect and an honor to work with all of them. The rest of the Emergency Management Commission, and I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong, but is that me or you? All right, good, we're working. So the rest of the Emergency Management Commission, as many of you know, the members are the mayors of all of the communities across Polk County. By Iowa code, they're named as the member of the Emergency Management Commission, and they have the authority to name alternates. We ask for an alternate elected official, as well as usually two alternate appointed officials. And I think that provides a great balance of elected leadership as well as appointed leadership on the commission. And really the whole purpose, to sum up several pages of Iowa code, is that we're here to help the community before, during, and after a disaster. If you want to do any fact checking or dig deeper into all of the details, I welcome you to take a look at Iowa Code Chapter 29C and the administrative code under Section 605. Between those two documents, provide our left and right boundaries, give us authority and responsibilities to conduct our business. And so what you see, or will see and hear the rest of our hour here, is within the context of Chapter 29C and Administrative Rules Section 605. Of course, we have bylaws that dive a little deeper and a little closer to the actual business of this particular Emergency Management Commission here in Polk County. You can see some points here on the screen. I'll highlight just a couple that relate to the creation of the executive committee and their authorities, responsibilities, the relationship that the staff has to the Emergency Management Commission, and then how the commission relates to Polk County government. And so this is probably not entirely unique, but it's a little bit unique that the Emergency Management Commission is an independent commission, but the code encourages the Emergency Management Agency and the commission to work closely with county government. But the Board of Supervisors, the sheriff, and the mayors of all the cities are actually the commissioners. Important to talk about our mission, and it's really, how do we help the community be successful before, during, and after a disaster? And so that community means individuals and families. It means organizations, nonprofit organizations. It means the private sector. It means other local governments. So it takes a lot of different forms, but all of the activities we are doing, we should be leading with positive examples, supporting, unifying, and connecting people. I think you'll see that as we talk over the next 45 minutes. Couldn't do that without an outstanding team. They're kind of spread around a little bit, but we'll start with our newest member and sort of go around, and they'll get a chance to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what their area of responsibility is. Laura.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Laura Kaser. I'm the new resiliency coordinator. My position is a new addition to the EMA team, and I started in September. My work primarily focuses on everything resiliency and recovery related. So over the course of the next 5 years, I'll be working with residents and county stakeholders to develop and document our recovery plans. This summer, we'll be delivering a newly revised hazard mitigation plan. And then I'm just excited to announce that last week, we launched our new local healthcare coalition. This is a great next step, and it gives us an opportunity to capitalize on and harness those relationships that were developed during the pandemic. And it's a great next step for us to just better position our community to be in a place to respond healthcare wise to emergencies that come up. So thank you, and I look forward to meeting you.
Good morning. My name is Brett McIntyre, and I joined the agency in May. So at the end of May, so it's been about 8 months now. I'm a program assistant, and my area is going to be the lead for training and exercise with the agency. So a couple of the big projects that we're working on right now are going to be some active threat response training and exercise plans here for 2024. We just last week or 2 weeks ago had a launch meeting to get some of our rescue task force plans from around the county kind of married up and compatible with each other, make sure that everyone has got similar levels of training, raise that baseline up and be ready to go for when the day comes, and kind of culminating with an exercise in October to raise that level of readiness. So I'll be in charge of a lot of the coordination of those training programs, bringing classes into the county. So anybody that has training needs or exercise needs, I'm the guy to contact, and I'll help put those together. And it's been good to see folks from different departments, different portions of the county kind of come together on this project. I still have to take a little bit of a back seat while I drink from the fire hose and let all of you out there kind of be the experts that guide me. But I've seen a lot of great cooperation and coordination amongst everyone out there already. And that certainly helps raise our level of confidence and spirit as well as we go forward.
Good morning. I think I recognize most of you. So Dutch Geisinger, I'm the deputy director. I try to fill AJ's shoes when he's out of town for whatever reason as the administrator or the director here. But in the day-to-day operations, I do a lot of our large special projects. I help with the emergency support functions of our comprehensive emergency plan, help develop and facilitate a lot of those. But most of that content comes from all of you and others around the community that help us put those things together. So really kind of a utility player for the agency.
Hi, my name is Tracy Bearden. I'm the 911 coordinator for the county. I'm an employee of the Emergency Management Commission through a 28E. A lot of my duties kind of surround the fiscal agent responsibilities. So I do budgeting, database management with the wireless surcharge, reimbursements so the PSAPs can continue to keep our first responders safe and our community safe and do the great work that they're doing. I also handle the service plan and the strategic plan for the 911 service board, which handles a lot of the intricate needs of 911 and meeting the state requirements so our PSAPs can fulfill their duties as a PSAP in the state of Iowa. And lastly, I have two more public facing programs, Alert Iowa, and also the the emergency health profiles from Rapid SOS. So I handle those along with 911 education.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cameron Stufflebeam. I'm one of the program assistants as well, like Brett. My areas that I kind of get a handle of a little bit more is the logistics. So material in and out, finding resources that aren't readily available that we may need to call in outside resources for or outside agencies for. And then I'm also the vice chair of the local emergency planning committee, which we have a couple of folks that are on that group here today. So specifically dealing with like hazmat response, how that goes and everything like that.
Great. Thank you, everybody. As you see, an outstanding team. There's one member that wasn't able to be here with us this morning, Patty Nordmeyer. She is usually the face and voice and personality that greets you when you come in. She does far more than that. She does budgeting. She does scheduling, a lot of just keeping the team connected. And we really appreciate her support. And certainly could not do it without Patty, but she's not able to be here with us this morning. At a recent staff meeting, we did an activity, just, went around and asked all the members of the team to talk about, their idea, their understanding of trust and what that meant to them, and maybe some words that came to mind. And you see kind of a word cloud here of some of the things that came up. We really condensed that down or with the help of doing some additional research on trust. Came across a very good book by David Horsager on the pillars of trust. Some of you, I'm sure, have seen this, and it really, I guess, spoke to me. As it was like really, hit home that everything that we had talked about as a staff really fit under those 8 pillars. So, as you will see here through the next half hour or so, talking about the context of what we do. And how it might allow us to demonstrate activities and behaviors that hopefully are building your trust. Ultimately, you're all the deciders of that not us. And so that's a part of why we do this partnership meeting each year, is to invite feedback. We do that throughout the year, but really intentional, every time about this time of year is to share what we've done in the past year, look forward to the next year, and hopefully continue to behave in a way that builds trust with you and your personnel, the personnel that you relate with. One of the words you saw on that list was clarity. We really utilize our plans as our tool to speak clearly of what our expectations are of one another. So, a lot of times people think, well, it's the plan, we have to have it, it's going to sit on the shelf. Really, it's that planning process for us that allows us to sit down with one another and understand, what do you expect of us and what can we expect of you and what do others expect of this entire organization. And so when we put all that together, you heard Laura talk about recovery and mitigation. You heard Dutch talk about emergency support functions. So all of these kind of fit into a continuum of plans from prevention and preparedness, response, and recovery. And you see that in a lot more words, I guess, up on the screen. But just to hit a couple highlights is on the mitigation plan that we're very, very proud, and all of you should be very proud of your involvement in this, is that since 2004, we've had a $35 million return on investment in terms of mitigation. And so FEMA has a statistic, I think it's like 1 in 6. So for every $1 invested in mitigation, it's $6 of avoided future damage. And I think we've seen that here in Polk County, specifically the last bullet point under the yellow box where it talks about $16 million avoided costs from the 2018 flash flood. And that's just in one particular area, the 4 Mile Creek watershed, that there has been mitigation activities in the past leading up to 2018 that allowed us to avoid $16 million of what would have been damage if that mitigation activity had not taken place. So a very important return on investment. Under preparedness, Brett talked about training and exercise and putting that together in a strategy, and that's work he's doing right now. We'll talk here in a second more about the comprehensive emergency plan and the emergency support functions that are under that umbrella. And then Laura's work on recovery plan, which involves cultural, economic, health and social services, housing, and infrastructure. So some very important work that can be done when the skies are blue, rather than under the pressure and emotion of an immediate disaster, and then trying to do a recovery plan under those more stressful conditions. This is the 16, there's actually a base plan, and then these 15 emergency support functions. So consider them like chapters, they're groupings of capabilities that are related to the items you see here on the screen. Example, because we just came off of a couple weeks of some frigid cold temperatures, like where does that extreme temperature plan, where does that fall? And so it's really, a subunit under ESF 6 for mass care and sheltering. And so this is how we have these individual plans and try to tie them together and have, sometimes it's the same organization that has responsibility for multiple functions. And this a network of people, it'll be on the right-hand screen here, what I'm talking about. You have people that have relationships in an organization that come together and do planning. They educate themselves through training. They validate that through exercises. We utilize supplies, equipment, information. We are able to communicate with each other either over public safety radios or other face-to-face, maybe in an emergency operations center. And when we take all of those things together, that adds up to a capability. So this is what we're always working towards, is trying to see where each of these, 6 elements of a capability, and trying to continue to build our capacity and capabilities underneath those 15 emergency support functions. Yeah, probably repeating myself here, but this is just how important I feel about it, is that the planning process, the relationships, the networking that we're doing during the planning process really is the foundation that allows us to perform so well when that bad day comes. Couple quotes in here, one by Abraham Lincoln that talked about the importance of continually educating yourself and becoming wiser every day. That's really the purpose of our training and exercise programs, is to build and validate those knowledge, skills, and abilities. Brett's responsible for a portion of our website as a tool to communicate the training and exercise activities that we are conducting or have planned. And so if you're ever interested in what's coming up, either locally, regionally, statewide, and even nationally, there's links to a lot of different training opportunities. And if you don't find it on there, or that's just not your thing, you don't want to go through the website to find that, just give Brett a call and we can help navigate that. But we just want to point everyone to this as a resource as it relates to training. And there's constantly evolving people within all of our organizations. So this is an activity that really never stops, that we do a lot of training annually. Incident command training is a good example that's coming up here next week. And so you'll see that course repeated because of all of those new names and faces and different emerging threats and methods to do our jobs better. Here's the graphic on the right-hand side is a stair-step method to approaching exercises. I talked yesterday, I sort of got on my soapbox. I'll try not to do that this morning, but just really a plea, I guess, for everybody that talks to maybe it might be a church organization, or it might be the Boy Scouts, or it might be the police department, fire department, really doesn't matter. When they say we want to do an exercise, some of the questions we're going to ask, and it's not to be difficult or a barrier to doing those exercises, but we're going to ask some questions. We're going to say, do you first have a plan? Because that has to be the foundation in the expectations of which we're going to exercise or evaluate ourselves. And then, do we have the training? Have we allowed people to be successful to accomplish those expectations before we just throw them into the final test? So that's why I wanted to pause here a second and just say that we always have to start with a plan, then the training, then the exercise, and we shouldn't be jumping right to the full-scale exercise. There are opportunities through tabletop discussions and functional exercises that will allow us to get there in a more productive way, because a lot of times if we're just jumping right in, right, they don't hand out the final test the first day of the semester, and that's just kind of what we're trying to reinforce here. Is let's build up towards that. We appreciate the enthusiasm to do these types of exercises, but if you hear us ask some of these questions, it's for these reasons I just talked about. In terms of the commitment, we want to be reliable partners that are available anytime, and our duty officer is going to be our frontline 24/7 way of demonstrating that commitment. Fire departments, police departments, the dispatch centers, communication centers, they are contacting our duty officer, and sometimes it's just, hey, I'm just giving you a heads up, we got this going on, we don't think we need anything, we unless the situation changes. We appreciate that. I've never minded getting woken up in the middle of the night to have a heads up, rather than to have a decision to, well, let's just wait until all of a sudden we're all behind the 8 ball. So never feel like you can't just give us a call and give us a heads up. If it's something you need right away, we'll either do our best to do that over the phone or come out to the scene. We're all prepared to do that. Our duty officers are here, ready, willing to provide any help, support, coordination that we can do, even if it's just standing close to the command post. And if we're not needed, so be it. But don't ever hesitate to give us a call. If that needs to escalate up to the Emergency Operations Center, the facility you're in here, we can activate that in a small way. We usually just call it a partial activation. Or it might be sort of like the 2018 and the derechos and other things where we've had a full entire activation where all of our emergency support functions are represented here. And we're here face to face, making good decisions and supporting the community overall. If you look back at 2023, sort of by the numbers, We responded to 64 single-family house fires, 9 multifamily fires, 6 hazmat, 6 planned events, 5 sort of just resource requests. Cameron talked about, resources, logistics. Sometimes it's just one little thing that's needed, and that's fine too. So we've been involved in 5 of those in 2023. 5 utility disruptions, 3 extreme temperature plan activations, 3 dive team, 3 severe weather, a couple evacuations, and a couple times where we were just the liaison to engage the Salvation Army for their canteen to provide water and snacks to responders that are at a incident out on the scene for an extended period of time. I don't know, there's probably 8 or 10 things under that 1 each. Those really just didn't fall under another category, but another example of some of the stuff our staff's involved in. The graph on the right, in 2023, 118 total responses. Probably just as, probably double that number if you're talking just a phone call here and there about a certain thing. But in terms of activities that we've been engaged in to support and assist all of you in 2023 was 118 responses, just 1 shy of last year, which so far is the sets the bar at the record. This Emergency Operations Center is ours, not just emergency management. It's the communities, it's all of yours. So hopefully you're comfortable here. That's why we invite you here for a lot of different things, is so that it's not the first time that you walk through the door and you're hit with the most challenging thing in your career. We want you to be comfortable here. We want you to be comfortable with other people that are here. And that Emergency Operations Center is designed to really be like an orchestra. That emergency management can facilitate, we can lead a process, but it's all of the hard work that you and your personnel are doing that makes a really big, ugly problem less big and less ugly. And we just keep repeating that same process, operational period after operational period, until we've made that, we've either contained that situation or resolved the crisis. Brett, if you wouldn't mind helping me out with a video here. It's about 1.5 minutes or so on the federal disaster declaration process. It's not every day that I guess publicly give FEMA credit, but they took about 1,000 pages of the Stafford Act and condensed it into 1.5 minute video. So you're seeing an extremely condensed version of a very convoluted, frustrating process, and many of you know that firsthand because of the experience we've had here in Central Iowa. And actually, we're in the middle of one right now, in the early stages of that. Cameron last Friday sent out a request to many of you asking for cost related to snow removal, dealing with the last couple weeks extreme cold and snow. And so that's really some of those first steps of the damage assessment process. And the reason that we ask those tough questions and you're like, oh, now I got to go do more work to pull this all together. And I wish I had better news for you, but it's just a matter of taking information from a variety of different sources, pulling it together in a way that is consistent with the 98 other counties in the state of Iowa, and allowing Iowa Homeland Security and Emergency Management to have a conversation with the governor's office, and for the governor then to request support from FEMA Region 7 in Kansas City. And then if that passes all of those bars, then it moves on to the president's desk for a declaration. So we could be here for another week and a half talking about the Stafford Act, but just understand that there's reasons that we're doing that, and it's certainly not to make anybody's life more complicated or frustrating, but just a necessary process, I guess. In addition to disasters, unplanned disasters, we are fortunate to be involved with a number of different major planned events. Last year in 2023 was, I think, the busiest year of the 20-some years I've been in emergency management in terms of planned events. NCAA basketball tournament, Ironman, Ragbri, and the State Fair. The State Fair, we've been involved with developing the event action plan for the State Fair for 21 years now, or going on 21 years this year. So that's not new to us, but it does give us a very strong foundation on dealing with other planned events. And so we, ask people that are going to have a responsibility with those planned events to come together and have, I guess, a bridge between a just very good, enjoyable, safe event and doing a lot of what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? What is our pathway to go from an enjoyable planned event into some sort of crisis response so that we're not caught off guard? Always, it's really a people first attitude of our approach. And so we can deal with a lot of infrastructure kind of things, but those are usually done in a way to make people safer or more comfortable. And so one of the things that we help organize immediately following a disaster is a multi-agency resource center. This is basically a one-stop shop that if you're a survivor of a disaster, you can come and talk to people about maybe it's the Iowa Legal Aid. If you've been, if your apartment is no longer habitable and you're not having a good relationship with the landlord after a disaster. Maybe it's the utility companies to understand, how the utility restoration process will occur. Maybe it's community family youth services. It could be Red Cross. It could be the food bank. It could be, I apologize if I'm leaving out many of you, because there's really dozens of organizations that can come together physically in one place that makes it as convenient as possible for somebody that's just went through a terrible time. And so that's another opportunity for us to convene a group of people with a people first attitude. How can we help our friends, neighbors, and family get back on their feet? In terms of helping each other, in terms of the public safety and public services, we have a countywide mutual aid agreement with among law enforcement, among fire departments, as well as public works. And that mutual aid agreement really kind of just puts into words what the relationship you already have with your peers in those fields, because we see it almost every day that somebody needs help, their neighbors coming help them. But what happens when we have a prolonged event, when those costs start adding up and saying this is becoming, excessively expensive? And in order for these costs to be eligible for federal reimbursement, if we get a disaster declaration, there's language in these 28E agreements that allow, that's why it says may and underline, that communities may bill after 12 hours. And that's not to like, okay, we're going to stick it to our neighbors because we spent 4 days helping them. It's to allow a connection, because if you're not the direct impacted community, you have no other way to recover cost unless this mutual aid agreement is utilized and there is a bill that's submitted. So I know in Iowa and the Midwest, we just want to help each other. And that's obviously true. But if there's a mechanism to also recover some of the costs for doing that, that mutual aid agreement is necessary to allow that to happen. We also have a mutual aid agreement across the entire state of Iowa so that if we're impacted in central Iowa and all of our neighbors are also dealing with the same thing, we can reach out to our neighbors even further away. And there's some language in Iowa Code 29C that was modeled after the National Emergency Management Compact that talks about reciprocation of licenses and permits. It provides some liability protections, workers' compensation, and other reimbursement entitlements. So a lot of detail that's in there. I just mention this because the next time we get into a situation where you need help or you're helping others and you don't, you maybe just, oh, I remember AJ talking about this at some point, please just contact us. We can walk through this together. If you have a question that we can't answer, we know the folks at the state and at the national level that can get those questions answered. In terms of connection, I mentioned those planned events. On the top picture, you probably can't see everybody's smiling face, but believe it or not, a lot of people are smiling in that photo. That's after our RAGBRAI after action review. Hours and hours, we can probably add it up, but it's definitely in the thousands of hours of personnel involved in the days, months leading up to RAGBRAI. On the bottom right-hand picture is race day operations. So here in this room, coordinating along with the Ironman race officials here in this room, law enforcement, fire, EMS. Rebecca was there. There's probably others that were in the room. So I appreciate their hard work. But again, we're coming together, connecting with each other to share that workload. We also get an opportunity to attend the Polk County Law Enforcement Executives monthly meetings, the Polk County Fire Chiefs monthly meetings, and Central Iowa EMS Directors meets every other month. And we're honored to be there as guests. We do a lot of listening. Sometimes we, share some things, but it's really to provide that continuous connection and keep those relationships up. There's probably another slide of just as many that I'm leaving off, but some other examples on hazmat, watershed management, communications, medical coordination, volunteers and donations through the Iowa Disaster Human Resource Council, Metro Media Council, and our partners on the private sector through Safeguard Iowa Partnership. So now if I went around the room and asked everybody else, there's probably 4 more meetings that they're going to every month on a certain topic, but that's a part of our job, is just making sure that those networks and relationships are maintained. Tracy mentioned the 911 Service Board and her role there. This really comes under a separate section of Iowa code called 34A. And again, if you want more details, I invite you to go there or have a sit down with Tracy. But our role in emergency management is to support as administrative and secretarial support to the 911 Service Board. In here, in about a month, the Emergency Management Commission will consider a request by the Service Board for the Emergency Management Commission to act as the fiscal agent for the Service Board. The reason that we're involved in this, it may be obvious to some, but maybe not others, is that even though there's separate authorities for 911 service, there is overlap in the word communications between both the Emergency Management Commission and the 911 Service Board. When we talk about planning, training, and exercise, all of that has to come together, and it makes sense and efficient because it's usually a lot of the same names and faces that are talking about both of those things. 2 specific products, and Tracy highlighted these, so I won't go into a lot more detail, but we'd encourage you, if you haven't already, recommend that friends and family, neighbors sign up for these particular products. They're free of charge, but it does require some action on your behalf to sign up for them. One is Alert Iowa, Polk County Alert Iowa is how we branded it, but it's a statewide, but we manage the Polk County portion of that, and it allows you to receive notifications if something's going on. I know certain communities use it for flood notifications, others for maybe a law enforcement activity in the area. So a lot of different appropriate uses. Our communication centers have direct access to those and have activated those for missing persons and several other things where we want to get the word out to either a very specific neighborhood or possibly even countywide. Rapid SOS is a similar system where people can register and maybe document if they have health issues in their household, so that when somebody calls 911, that additional information is available to the dispatcher that's taking that call. Almost all of you probably received the invitation to come to this session via our DLAN system. This DLAN stands for Disaster Local Area Network. And it's really a software tool, cloud-based software tool that we utilize for managing our thousands of contacts. I used to say Rolodex, but I'm realizing that's a term that fewer and fewer people I talk to know what it is. But it's our electronic Rolodex. It also is a geographic information system. It's a resource inventory tool. So all the resource typing that when Cameron talks to you about what new ambulances did you get and do you have any new dump trucks and backhoes and all these other resources, it's not that we own those things, but we own the software system that keeps the countywide repository of that information. So when somebody calls and say, hey, I need a canine team for maybe it might be a cadaver search, that somebody can call, Cameron can, any of us can, but Cameron's usually the person that's doing this, type in some keywords and we'll know, okay, here's our point of contact. Here are the capabilities of that particular resource. And we can connect, we can be a broker of somebody's need and somebody else's resource. In terms of contribution, here's a picture of former Vice President Pence that visited the command post during NCAA basketball. Another picture, I wanted to really highlight the great work that our tactical dispatchers and communication centers did during Ironman. They've also done it during RAGBRAI and other events. But we can bring those folks and their capabilities and their expertise here in the room, and their contributions add up to a much greater effort than we could ever do individually. The organizational chart on the left is just really a visual to show that there were 9 individual political subdivisions involved that RAGBRAI went through. Many of you that the route did not go through were helping those that did have the route in their community, and that was coordinated here in the Emergency Operations Center. So again, a lot of people coming together, working together to share information and share that workload. I think you probably have a handout with you. I'm not going to go through all of that, but those were just some samples of to give you a broad cross section of the types of activities that we're involved in. So please take a look at that at your convenience. But 2023 was a busy year, just busier than 2022, and 22 was busier than 2021. We're just like all of you, that there's just the work does not slow down. And we don't say that to complain. We say that because when we're invited to assist on a particular project or program or event, we're honored to do that. That means to us that you trust us enough to be a contributor rather than a liability. Just a few other highlights beyond the page that you have in front of you. A lot of meetings, just really probably thousands of meetings. I didn't ask Patty to go through the calendar and count them. She would break her other toe, kicking me in the rear if I asked her to do that. But she probably has thousands of meetings documented that we've attended as a staff over the last year. Cameron here coming up in February and March and April. We'll be working with all of you on the resource typing, getting that updated for 2024. We did a lot of stuff as a team, focused on wellness and fitness over the last year. You probably can't tell on me yet, but we're still doing some small things, try to do it as regularly as we can, but it also helps build the camaraderie and morale of the staff. We did a volunteer outing at one of our partners, the Animal Rescue League. We learned how to build homemade dog toys and all sorts of stuff. But we try to give back to the people that are helping the emergency management program as well. The last three, the CAD to CAD project, Dutch has helped facilitate and provide some leadership to that program. Injection of $5 million, which really there was a lot of great stuff that many of us talked about over the last 15 years of what we could do if we could just get that next step. And I think this is one of the first of those next steps to really build a regional, true interoperability, efficient 911 communications and public safety system. So CAD stands for computer aided dispatch. I could bring Danny up here and she could tell us a lot more because she is doing it every day. But people like Danny and others are working with Dutch on making our CAD systems at our 3 separate dispatch centers operate more seamlessly, and it provides better ultimately it's to provide better services to the community and better information available to our public safety entities that are out on the streets every day. Also, we're able to secure a $375,000 grant for the Iowa Event Center. So the next time, and maybe not quite yet, maybe in a few months when that's completed, when you go to something at Hy-Vee Hall or the Event Center, that you feel safer, more secure, and you'll get through faster by an upgrade of their detection equipment. So we're proud to help out by securing that grant for them. And then probably a little over $200,000 now to allow schools to access security and communications equipment and physical security protection at our schools across Polk County by people on our staff, mainly Dutch, doing school safety assessments and providing that information to the schools. So a lot of great things there. What's ahead in 2024? All of those things I've talked about, plus to highlight a few things here. Brett mentioned the active threat work group and a lot of the things that they have on their schedule for 2024. One of the things I'm excited about is a training officer consortium or collaborative, or Brett will come up with a good name for that group. But it's really the training officers from fire departments, police departments, EMS, emergency management, and others to come together and say, you know, here's what we're doing, and can we do more multi-jurisdictional and multidisciplinary training? I talked about CAD to CAD. I've talked about some of the other things on there or during the introductions. Our staff has talked about these things. And we hope to do an EOC short course. A few years ago, we did a 3-day intensive emergency operations center course, and we understand that that's not convenient for people to carve out 3 whole days to spend here. It's really, really good training, but it's really, really difficult to just set aside 3 days for that. So we're going to sort of do a mini series of those that over time we can touch all of that same stuff, but do it in smaller chunks. Kind of the same thing with planned events. Laura talked about the recovery plan. One of the things that we're starting just yesterday or the day before met and talked about our emergency support function updates and those schedules and how we can better deliver that information and get that in the hands more conveniently of all of you and our residents through digital access. And then, of course, so we're always trying to chip away at our strategic plans. Sometimes the day-to-day stuff builds up and gets in the way of that. Probably a familiar feeling for all of you as you try to be strategic, but yet efficiently operational on a day-to-day basis. But that's really what we want to try to accomplish in 2024. And in order to do that, the budget, the resources that are required to do all of those activities, you see a very summarized version here in front of you. Hopefully the print is large enough to see, but to hit a few highlights is that in 2025, our proposed budget, our total revenue coming from a variety of sources, the Board of Supervisors, All of the cities provide a 50-cent per capita according to a 28E agreement. And so we appreciate the city's contribution to that as well. Just a little under $40,000 for grants. All that adds up to about $1.1 million of revenue. And for expenditures, personnel and services are our two largest line items there. And our total expenses are expected to be just a hair more, about $5,000 more than our revenue. We do have a reserve of about $500,000. So certainly not, we don't want to be operating in the red on a regular basis, but in this particular year, our proposed budget would have us spending about $5,000 more than we're bringing in. I will say that most years our proposed budget does put us almost right at break even. And I would say 8 out of the last 10 years, we have actually finished in the black, that we have found ways to either save on costs or some of the things that we expected, we found other revenue sources for that offset. And so as you see in the 2023 actual year, if I can't remember the exact when we started that proposed year, but we finished with about $46,000 in the positive. So that's not unusual for us to have a proposed budget that shows what it does, but actually finish in a better financial situation. On the 911 service board side, the revenue really is two very specific sources, and that's surcharge funding. So if you look at your phone bill, you'll probably see $1 every month that goes to a surcharge. That's received either by the state or us directly here locally, and it's provided to the 911 service board, and they allocate that funding out through primarily the 3 PSAPs, the City of Des Moines, Polk County Sheriff's Office, and Westcom. But there's also some joint projects that the 3 PSAPs have said, hey, we're all doing this together. Why not consolidate it and get a little bit more bang for our buck as a joint project? And then there's about $180,000 in the proposed fiscal year 25 for service board administration. That's primarily for salary and benefits to support the 28E agreement, as well as supplies and materials directly consumed by the 911 service board. But otherwise, that's a summarized version of both the commission's budget and the 911 service board. If you're interested in more details, I can assure you there's a lot more line items that add up. I know most of you are very familiar with how this process works. And so if you'd like some of those details or have questions about any of that, please contact me and be happy to get you that information and provide you I want to answer your question. I don't want to bury you with the details that are irrelevant, but you have a right to know what is all in both of those budgets. And so we're happy to talk about those. There will be a public hearing on both of those budgets on February 21st. Those coincide with the next 911 Service Board and the Emergency Management Commission's regularly scheduled quarterly meetings. And by the way, you're always welcome. Those are public meetings. You're welcome to attend those as a guest, or if you have comments that you'd like to address either the commission or the service board, there are opportunities quarterly to do that. I will stop there. Here is the reminder that if you have others that you said, I wish somebody else could have been here, or if I spoke too quickly and breezed over something and you want to go back, Brett's going to use his talents to put this recording onto our website. And so we'll share that through DLAN probably by the end of the week or early next week. With that, I don't know if there are any particular questions that I can answer. I'd be happy to do that. While you're thinking of your questions, I'll just thank you again for your time this morning and your time throughout the year. Yes.
Hi.
Good morning.
You mentioned in the brochure, the Emergency Operations Center. Is that where the governor goes out by the Weather Service area out of town, or is it here?
So both of them are emergency operations centers. This would be for all of Polk County. The one that you're referring to that the governor would go to is out at Joint Forces Headquarters, and that's the state's Emergency Operations Center. And so during a disaster, there's constant communication between all of this particular EOC and that one. And so I guess they're focused on statewide things, the DOT and the DNR and public safety, but they're also providing some support and coordination. And we can also go to them and say, what's happening on the other side of the state that might have an impact on us? So it's the two are related. Yeah, thank you.
AJ, a couple questions. Thanks for the update. First off, I know the National Weather Service is substantially changing their software tools related to flood gauges and hydrology which is a great thing. It's a huge upgrade. Has there been any talk about trainings or things that we can do with our local office here when they make that conversion in kind of March, April timeframe, just to make sure that since we are very dependent on those tools, I know that they've done some webinars that are more nationally focused, but even just with our local team, have you guys talked about doing maybe something specific with them since they are drastically changing and upgrading those tools?
They are. And I'll give just a couple comments and Brett can fill in.
I was
here.
kind of looking at both.
Yeah, exactly.
Figured that was a Brett question.
I did all the technical stuff. I'm going to go to Brett, but I know that the National Weather Service has been a great partner and they have offered some of that. I think there's probably some other stuff coming up, but if that doesn't satisfy the level of detail that our communities need, we have a great relationship with Chad Hahn and his team out there. And so I'm sure if we asked nicely that they would do whatever they needed to do to get those questions answered. So if you're not getting what you need, let us know and we'll be happy to facilitate that.
Yeah, and I would add that right now, we're in the process of working with the National Weather Service, basically an integrated warning team workshop and meeting that we have planned in early April. So it'll be the National Weather Service, the surrounding EMAs and media. And so we're going to work on some of that. We will have a meeting here at the EOC in early April that I think will likely be open to at least EMAs and media, but I'll probably follow that up with one of our lunch and learns at the end of April with the National Weather Service and a couple of other pieces for things that specifically come out of that locally for us. And then additionally, some of those changes that are coming with the water prediction.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a great idea on the election.
Second question is I know that the work is happening on the hazard mitigation plan, and I think it goes without saying that there's all communities in Polk County are very dependent on that plan getting approved and approved on time. So I would just wanted to be curious and kind of what's the update on where things are at, because I know we have a hard deadline by June, if I recall, that it has to go to the state, and just know that obviously a lot of our funding is dependent on that plan being updated. Just wanted to be curious of where that stands in terms of timeline.
We are on track to have that approved in time. Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, we are on schedule to have that approved on time. I know there are several communities that count on that for discounts for insurance. So we'll make sure to keep moving that forward. You're going to hear very soon. There's a couple of meetings coming up. There's a February meeting. It's the HIRA meeting. And then we have a March meeting, which is a strategy meeting. So dates are coming soon for you to put on your calendar because we really need your input.
Yeah, the sooner that schedule can get out, the better for the member communities who want to have staff involved in that and have received points for being involved in that process through our community rating system FEMA designations, so for flood insurance. And my third question is related to 911. I noticed that, and I haven't talked to you about this, AJ, but so I was curious when I saw the 911 budget that Polk County Sheriff's Office has a $2.4 million expense in 2025. Is that them drawing down their reserve?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so our understanding is they've made us aware that they expect to utilize some of their reserves. In order to do that, they're going to have to do a budget amendment. And right now, we're still waiting to know if that's going to be at the May meeting this year. So if they don't amend it in May, then the number you saw in the proposed budget would occur as a drawdown in the fiscal year 25.
Okay. Thank you.
Great questions.
Thanks, AJ. Just a couple closers for me. Thanks to the city of Clive for kind of stealing my thunder here, because if I was gonna go,
I'd never do that to you.
if I was gonna go home afterwards and someone says, was it worth it to go to that meeting, or tell me something that's important that comes through the function of emergency management, I'd probably lead with the return on investment is massive. That especially since the modern 2004 to the present being ahead $35 million. The hazard mitigation plan that is the key to eligibility for a whole lot of things that make our schools, our municipal facilities, our levees, kind of you name it better, comes through that process. And those are big things. I look around the room, and I did yesterday, and I see a lot of very experienced operators, administrators, elected officials. And a lot of you could have said, I've heard most of this information before, I could skip, but you don't. And your commitment means a big deal. And all of the work that we do together can be seen through all of your experience and all of your contributions in those emergency plans and all the things that we do. That continued contribution and growth from the experienced folks makes all of us better. For those of you who are newer to this process, I hope that will become you as well, because this is a community, a countywide community that has done really well. But if you're brand new to us, kind of nice that now you can put names with faces and contact information. And so whether we are planning to train and do exercises together, or we're working on those grants together, or you get the call that, hey, the water main broke, or the levee went away, or whatever, and you're in the position where you're new to this, but you need to respond to the Emergency Operations Center, you're coming here amongst friends. And so all you need to really do is to show up and say, I might need some help on this, but I'm here to take care of my community. Where do I plug in? And this is the group that can do that. So welcome to everyone that's newer to us. Huge thanks and ongoing thanks for everybody who has made us what we are today. But with that, I will hand it back to you, AJ.
Yeah, otherwise, really don't have anything else except to invite you, if you have questions for any of the staff, we're here to answer your questions. So feel free to hang around, have another cup of coffee, and chat with us about an item that you feel strongly about. So thank you. Have a great day. Be safe, and we'll see you soon.